What's up, horror fans? It's Danny
and Charlotte
from the Massacre, and finally we are doing our Saw franchise ranking. We have spent the entire month of May binging through the Saw franchise thanks to HBO Max, Peacock, which has Jigsaw on it, and just the other day, Charlotte, at 10 years old, made it through her first horror movie experience in the theater when we saw Spiral from the Book of Saw. And this is a franchise that I personally have gained so much new respect for. I had kind of written off the Saw franchise as torture porn by, I want to say, parts 4 and 5. I saw the first few in the movie theater, and then they stopped becoming appointment viewing probably by 3 or 4. And then after Saw 5, I pretty much gave up on the franchise. And I had never seen Saw 6, Saw 3D, Jigsaw, or obviously Spiral until we watched them together. So watching them all together, though, I was just saying this to Pete on our review of Spiral, that I think this franchise has a lot more winners in it than most horror franchises, especially those who dabble near the double-digit mark. When you talk the big 3 horror franchises, Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, those movies usually, those franchises usually have more stinkers or more middle-of-the-road films than they do good ones. I genuinely only dislike one Saw movie out of 9. You'll find out which one that is in a minute. But 8 out of 9 of these, I think, are okay to outright awesome.
That's what you think. 7 out of 9 for me.
7 out of 9 you think are good?
Yes.
Okay, so still, that's a really good percentage.
Wait.
You only don't like 2 of them.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Hello, viewers. I want to play a game. Your first task is to press the like button and subscribe to this channel. You may pass this game if you do those steps. Thank you.
Yes,
Let
do
me
that.
die.
And the best part about that game is we're not going to put a trap on you.
No.
And yeah.
No trap involved.
There's no living or dying. There's no bloodletting.
I also gave a shout out to your video. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah. So let's get started. Charlotte, give me, since there's 9 movies and 9 is divisible by 3, we're going to take this in groups of 3. So you tell me your bottom 3. What are your, from worst to best, the bottom 3 films in your list?
So we have a paper right here showing us our rankings.
Don't give away the trade secrets. If they can't see the paper, it doesn't exist.
Anyway, on my list I have 9, 7, 3 as the bottom 3. Okay,
so 9 is obviously the 9th film in the franchise. That's Spiral. That's it. So yeah, we walked out of the movie theater and
and I was like, I didn't like it.
Yeah. You could tell she's my daughter because she walked out of a horror movie in the theater and she wasn't, at 10 years old, she wasn't like, it was too scary, I didn't like it. No, she was just a critic, and she was just like, I didn't like this movie.
It was, I don't want to say bad, but not great.
Okay, so what didn't you like about Spiral?
I know this is weird for a 10-year-old girl to say, but there ain't no gore.
It was definitely, I think there was gore.
There was a little bit.
But it was definitely light on the kills and light on the gore.
Kind of like Saw 1, but Saw 1 was still great. Anyway, it has almost nothing compared. Sorry, I'm a little confused. Nothing to do with any of the Saw movies from 1 to 8.
Yeah. It's funny you said you're confused. You don't have to be 10 years old to get confused. This franchise, I've heard other people discuss this, but this franchise is very soap opera-esque. Whereas my wife watches General Hospital, and I'm not going to lie, I watch General Hospital too. And if you miss a week of General Hospital, you are far behind, my friend, because they go back and pick up storylines from days, weeks, months, sometimes decades ago. And the Saw franchise, Saw came out in 2004, and they made a sequel every single year until 2010, I believe, when Saw 3D came out, Saw 7. And then there was a 7-year break before Jigsaw. So this series has better continuity than any other horror franchise. Halloween, are you kidding? There's like, you have to Google Halloween timelines to figure out what the hell you're doing. Texas Chainsaw Massacre? No.
This is the first franchise that I've actually gone through all the movies. Because
Yes.
Halloween, I've seen the first one. Never seen
Well,
the
this
rest.
is your first full franchise, yeah.
Yeah. Nightmare on Elm Street, I've seen 1 3 7, but not the whole thing.
Yes.
Friday the 13th, only seen the first.
I will always say the best horror film franchise, and it's not a big one, and there's only 4 movies, but the Evil Dead franchise has 4 films. They're all great, and even the TV series is great. But let's get back to Saw. So you have Spiral as your bottom movie, and you said it's your bottom movie because it doesn't have that continuity with the rest of the movies. And I get that, especially watching them all together. There's characters that carry on from movie to movie to movie, and you didn't get that here, okay?
What are your 3?
Well, you only told 1. Well, oh, you said, so what are your other 2? So Spiral was
7
bottom.
and 3. I didn't, it's not the worst, but I really dislike 7, and you can agree with this on me, because you have this at the bottom of your list.
It's spoiled, yeah. And you said part 3. Now, a lot of people really like Saw 3.
A lot of people do, but I couldn't take it.
Yeah, so it's funny because you complained that Spiral didn't have enough gore.
And I think Saw 3 took it up a notch.
Yeah, Saw 3 has some of the nastiest kills in the franchise. I've seen Saw 3 a couple different times. I cannot watch The Rack. I can't do it.
I can't either. That's why
I was really glad that she, was like, I can't watch, and she, buried her head in the couch. So, I was like, yeah, they're there, and I, took care of her while it was happening on screen, just so I didn't have to watch it. It is slow and disgusting. I'll come back to Saw 3 in a minute. So, you have, your bottom 3 are Spiral, Saw 3D, which is also Saw the Final Chapter, Part 7, and then Saw 3. My bottom 3, the only film in the entire Saw franchise that I absolutely did not like at all is Saw 3D. I pretty much hated that movie from beginning to end. Yes, there are some...
hurtful.
What do you mean?
Even I didn't say that Saw 9 was...
No. I hated Saw 3D.
Sorry, director.
I didn't like... The thing that bothered me the most about Saw 3D was that, first of all, it was just mean. The lead character, usually you can empathize with the person who is at the center of the game. Even if they're there for a legitimate reason, you can empathize a little bit. Especially coming off of Saw 6. Bobby Dagan, played by Sean Patrick Flannery, he's just kind of an asshole. And his wife, who's the only good person in the movie, gets one of the worst deaths in the franchise, which really stinks. And then the whole ending is pretty much Hoffman as this machine psycho killer. You know, here's a guy who was a police officer who then started to become a disciple of John Kramer. Now he's just walking around stabbing people in the neck who are just innocent people. I absolutely did not like Saw 3D at all. And if that was supposed to be the end of the franchise, I thought it ended on a total wet fart. Then, sorry, that's a good expression for you. My next 2 down are the 2 most recent films. Jigsaw at number 8, which is appropriate. It was the 8th film in the franchise. And then Spiral. I didn't hate these movies, but Jigsaw suffered from, I thought that the traps, especially the first one, felt way too similar to Saw 5, and I thought that the ending, the ending with the retcon that they did about how this was the first trap, the first game that John Kramer ever set up, that ending to me didn't land well.
Liked it.
That's fine. And then number 7 on my list is Spiral. And for me, the issue with Spiral is what you said. It's just, I love the continuity of this series. The fact that every movie kind of goes off of what the last movie did. And this movie is just a completely separate entity.
Sorry to say, but Spiral, I don't know why I was kind of scared. Like, I was hiding beneath his
I think
face.
it might have just been, it was your first horror movie
Yeah, but
in
I
the
was just
theater.
paranoid.
Well, yeah, but you were also in a, you know, outside. There's a big difference between sitting on the couch watching on our TV versus being in a dark movie theater with the loud thumping
and
sound.
We were sitting at the end,
which was good for you.
Yeah, that was good for me because
nobody could attack her from behind.
Nobody could
no
attack
pig
me.
masks.
No pig mask could attack me, and I'm farther away
from the screen. Yes.
Yeah, it's farther away.
My last thing about Spiral is also, and I said this to you in the movie theater, I saw the ending coming a mile away. The big twist reveal, I had it pegged from the middle of the movie.
It was quite obvious.
And yeah, it fell very, very flat at the end. I did like Chris Rock, and I love Samuel L. Jackson in anything he does. So again, didn't hate it. I don't hate Jigsaw either. They're just, aside from Saw 3D, those are my next 2 down. So let's move now into our middle Saw movies. The 3 movies in the middle of our list. What is your number 6 movie?
What do you mean?
Oh,
okay. So the next 3 down is, for me, is 846. And I personally didn't hate Jigsaw, but it wasn't the best. You know, it wasn't the best. That's why it's right after Saw 3 in the first, like, I didn't like that part. But it did have a really surprising ending. I didn't really expect it because, what was her name? Eleanor?
Yeah.
She thought Halloran was Jigsaw, and Halloran thought that,
she was Jigsaw.
She was Jigsaw.
And it turns out to be the middle. It turns out to be the other guy. Actually, well, Jigsaw was there, but the other guy was one of his accomplices, yes.
And that actually took place before any other, like, before Lawrence and Adam got trapped, before Amanda got trapped, before any of that.
Okay, so next one down, number...
4.
Saw 4. Okay.
4 was really weird. It had Rig from Saw 2.
And 3.
And 3.
Yeah.
And it's all about Rig. And we find out in Saw 4 who was working with Jigsaw. And
that's the twist at the end, yeah.
Yeah, that's the twist at the end, that it was actually Hoffman, and that he wasn't actually trapped with Eric Matthews.
Oh, yeah. That was a pretty cool reveal, because it looks like Hoffman and Matthews are in the same trap, and if one of them dies, the other one dies. And then we find out, of course...
I have a question.
Yes.
Why was the guy at the beginning of Saw 4? Was it the beginning of Saw 4? With the guy taped his mouth shut?
No, that was the beginning of Saw 3.
Anyway.
Oh. No, yes. The beginning of Saw 4 is the stitched eyes and the stitched mouth. Yes.
So, I don't know why that guy was controlling it if he wasn't Jigsaw.
Because just like in part 1, Jigsaw, for some people, their game is to be in the game. And for some people, their task is to watch the game, like Zepp in part 1.
Oh.
Yeah. And then, what is number 4 on your list? What's your next one down?
The last one down for the middle is 6, because 6, I honestly didn't hate it, because I think it had a really cool characters, because in Diary of a Wimpy Kid it has Roderick, the actor, and I love Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I just watched both movies, and anyway, this person, though, like, full-on, didn't really murder, but just didn't care about the woman and her son's father
Oh, yeah. That's the... we'll talk a little bit about that also. That's the movie about where it's basically John Kramer's attack of the American healthcare system. And the main character in that movie, William, is... he works for a healthcare company, and he denies coverage to somebody, and that person ends up dying of their illness, and the game is about William trying to get to the end, but then it's really this guy from the beginning, his wife and son are there, and they can determine if William lives or dies, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. So for me, my middle three is, well, very simple. It's 3, 4, and 5. So I have a lot of the same issues with you. The same issues that you have with Saw 3 is that Saw 3 for me is the one where I think the Saw franchise decided we're just going to go absolutely crazy with the gore and the traps. And that's what this franchise is about now. Even more than the continuity, more than Jigsaw, we're just going to show nasty, nasty stuff. And you get, I mean, within the first 10 minutes of the movie, you have Troy, who's ripping the chains out of his body.
That's honestly one of the second worst.
Yeah, you have Carrie, who... And I'll always come back and I'll always argue that if you were going to make Saw 4 with Rigg as the main character of the movie, and you're going to make Part 5 with Strom as the main character of the movie, why not give Carrie her own movie? She was an established character from Part 2. She's in Part 1. I believe she's in Part 1 for like a minute. She's in Part 2. She's got a big role in Part 2. Why not make her the main character instead of just killing her off right away? Then, like I said, the gore is a little too much even for me. But then there's one thing about Saw 3D that drags it down.
3?
For Saw 3, yes. For Saw 3, that drags it down more than anything else. And that is Jeff. Angus McFadden and his portrayal as Jeff. This is a guy who should be the most empathetic and sympathetic character in the whole franchise. He's a grieving father. His son was hit by a car. His wife, we find out at the end, his wife has been taken capture. And he's the most unlikable frickin' character.
He's so slow.
He's slow. Every one of his tests, it feels exactly the same. It's like Jigsaw goes, you have 60 seconds. So he spends 40 seconds yelling at the person instead of, oh, I fucking hate Jeff. I hate Jeff. And that's why, I'm sorry. But that's why Saw 3, for me, is this low on my list. It's my number 6. That being said, had Saw 3 been the end of the franchise, I think there are 2 clear ending points of this franchise. Where if they wanted to make a great ending point, you could have done it. Here was the first one. Because John Kramer dies at the end of Part 3.
Yeah.
So, Jigsaw's dead. End the franchise. Problem is, they were making too much money, which is why we get to my number 5 pick, which is Saw 4. Saw 4, like Charlotte said, is all about Rigg's game. And then the big ending reveal is that Hoffman, this kind of character that we only meet for like a cup of coffee. He's on screen for maybe 2 minutes in Saw 3. He becomes the main antagonist. He's one of Jigsaw's apprentices. And now we're building this massive story. And Darren Lynn Bousman, who directed Spiral, he did Saws 2, 3, and 4. And in 2, 3, and 4, he's the guy who pretty much gets this kind of soap opera continuity aspect going. I don't really have much to say about Saw 4. I think it's just the most there movie in the whole franchise, which is why for me it kind of falls right in the middle. And then number 4 for me is Saw 5. I really like Saw 5. I think Saw 5 has, and we talked about this earlier, before we even started recording. We both love the game of Saw 5. It's these 5 people who are involved in public housing and getting and they led to the death of these people in using their connections.
Kind of like Jigsaw.
Yeah, their political connections. And they have to go through this game, and if they would listen to Jigsaw, which is always a thing in this series, if you just listen to him, he's telling you exactly what you need to do. Nobody ever freaking listens. Okay? I should use these movies with my students as like...
If I ever get trapped, for example, like Eric Matthews, and for example, you get trapped, I would sit there and listen to Jigsaw the whole time. Your daughter is in a safe place. All you have to do is sit here and talk to me. Okay, stay there and talk to him. That's it. Like dumb Eric Matthews, just sit there.
In that movie, in Saw 5, he tells them, you have to work together. You know, your instinct is to do what you can to survive. Work against your best instincts. And so the whole trap is based on if they all work together, they'll all survive.
So, for example, the first part is there's only one key. Like, all the keys work on each lock.
Yeah. But there's one thing where there's a bathtub full of water, and the only way to unlock the door is for somebody to take the electric shock. And they're all arguing about who's going to get in the water, leading to one of them murdering another person, when they don't realize until it's too late, if they would have all gone in the water, they all would have gotten shocked, but only a little bit, and they would have all lived, and they could have all moved on. And then at the end, the last 2 people finally work together, but they have to literally saw their hands in half.
Luckily, they survive.
They do. Alive. Yes, which is another reason I like Saw 5, because it shows that people can actually win the games, which I think with Amanda and with Hoffman, it was getting a little iffy. The other thing I like about Saw 5, for the most part, is Strom's game, Strom's adventure. He starts the movie by stabbing himself in the throat.
Well, that's a survival hack.
Yeah, to give himself a tracheotomy.
So if you're ever in a trap like Strom and only your head is submerged and you can't breathe because you're drowning, take anything sharp and stab... Don't actually do it.
I know.
Stab yourself in the throat so your oxygen...
We're on YouTube. Don't tell people... There goes a cat. Don't tell people to stab themselves in the throat.
I'm just saying for survival.
I know.
Survival person...
I like that Strom is a relatively smart... Oh, there goes the cat on top of the DVDs. But yeah, he's somewhat of a smart character up until the end when he meets his grisly end. But yeah, that's the middle. So now we're up to our top 3 each. So you go ahead.
So
there's only... We're very close on these lists. Okay, you talk. I'll get the cat.
Okay, so I have... As my last 3 is 5, 2, 1. Yes, I think 5 is my number 3 because 5, 1, you actually see Hoffman saving Jeff and Lynn's daughter.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
At first, when Saw 3 was over, I was just like, well, daughter's dead. And then once I see the daughter come out, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's alive. But now both of their parents are dead. Anyway,
and then what are your top 2?
2 and 1, because I think 1's the best, because it's just the original piece, and I like original pieces. And...
Get it? Piece?
Oh. And it's big and shocking, because... When you don't know the full franchise, seeing the dead body on the floor, emerging from the ground is just so magical and horror.
We did a video on this channel of Charlotte and I reviewing just Saw Part 1, and then we also did a video. And then we also did a video of us reviewing Parts 2 and 3, and she said. When John Kramer sits up at the end of the first Saw movie...
You should have seen my reaction.
One of the most iconic scenes in the last 20 years of horror. Charlotte had that exact reaction. The same reaction that basically a lot of people had to this movie when it came out.
I love 1.
So, my number 3, the top 3 for me, number 3 is Saw 6. Now, I mentioned that Saw 3 would have been a good ending point because obviously John Kramer dies. If I were writing this franchise, the franchise would have ended at Saw 6, where at the end of Saw 6, Hoffman has been the villain now from the end of Part 4, all of Part 5, all of Part 6. He's now violated the rules of John Kramer's game. And, doesn't Saw 5 also starts with the pendulum, I think. Right? That's Saw 5?
Wait.
Or is that 6? No. Or 4. See, these movies blend very much. Saw 6, though, ends. I'm going to talk about the ending first. It ends with Hoffman getting drugged by Jill Kramer. Played by...
Kramer?
Is it? Yeah, Jill...
Jill Tuck.
Oh, Jill Tuck, sorry. Jill Tuck, John Kramer's wife. Sorry, I called her ex. Well, yes. And he ends up in the reverse bear trap.
But he doesn't die.
And to me, it was a perfect symmetry where this could have been, okay, John Kramer's dead. His top apprentice, Hoffman, has gone off the rails. He's killing everybody. He kills the FBI agents who are onto him at the end of Saw 6. He's completely violating all of the rules that he swore to John.
His sister's killer.
Well, yeah, but that was at the beginning. Now, remember, he kills the FBI agents.
He does?
Kills it. Yeah. What they figure out that it's his voice on the tape. And at the end of the day, him in the reverse bear trap being killed by John Kramer's wife as a final message, game over, would have been a perfect ending to the franchise for me. Unfortunately, that does not happen. He is able to wedge the mask into the door. It opens and cuts the hell out of his cheek, but he doesn't die, and the movie ends with him screaming.
Kind of like the beginning of Saw 4.
Yeah, so I felt like, again, they had an ending there, and they just kind of blew it. And ironically, the 3 movies at the bottom of my list are 7, 8, and 9, the 3 movies that have come after Part 6.
Talk about your last 2.
Okay. The other thing I really liked about Saw 6 was the game itself, which features William, played by Peter Outerbridge. He's the guy from the healthcare. He's a guy who does health insurance, and he's basically has to pick... He has to use his own test to see who gets health insurance and choose whose life he's going to save. And what I liked about this was, A, he's forced to make Jigsaw-esque decisions, but he actually becomes a likable character along the way. He's trying his best to save all of the people, and he's trying to save the right people. And I really felt for him, and I really liked him. And then, of course, at the end, we find out that it's not his game. It's up to the wife and the son, and frickin' Roderick decides to kill him in a really gross scene where he gets filled with acid.
But I can.
Yeah, and the poor guy goes through all of this torture.
Wife.
Well, his sister.
That's his sister?
It was the main guy, William. It was his sister who had to watch. Yeah.
Oopies. But yeah, his poor sister, too.
Yeah. I
feel bad if Brett died.
Part 6 had some of my favorite moments in the Saw franchise, and then it also had moments where I was like, oh, come on. Okay, so she wants me to get to my top 2, and the problem for me is that it's so hard for me to pick.
Choose.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I think Saw 2 really improved on a lot of the problems with Saw 1. And I think it establishes the double time frame. It establishes that, you know, there's 2 games going on at the same time. And it does a lot of things better than Part 1. But it doesn't have the iconic moments that Part 1 has.
Da-na-na.
Yeah, and as a horror fan, I have to go with Saw 1 as my number 1. But it's super duper close. Saw 2 has, for my money, the scene that gives you the most willies, the most like, and that is the Amanda being dropped into the pit of needles. Exactly. That is...
Stupid Xavier.
Oh, yeah, he's an awful character. I mean, he's a really good, like, bad guy that you want to watch eventually die, and he does. But it has the really good cop plot with all the cops, all the best cops. You have Matthews, you have you have Carrie, you have Rigg is there. And John Kramer's caught from the beginning of the movie. He's
and Daddy even made a joke like, "Oh, so franchise is over.
Yeah,
bye."
Like they go up and there he is, and all the guns are pointed at him, and I'm like, "Well, that's it. They caught Jigsaw. Movie over. Game over."
Movie over.
Saw 1 is far from a perfect movie. I love Lee Winnell. Invisible Man, Upgrade.
Huh?
As a director, Lee Winnell is the writer of the first 3 Saw movies.
Oh, okay.
And he co-created Saw with James Wan, who also directed The Conjuring, which we're going to watch next.
Okay.
But he's also Adam.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, Lee Winnell, phenomenal writer, phenomenal director. Acting?
Oh my god.
Not so much.
Lawrence Gordon is played by the guy in The Princess.
Yes, Princess Bride. Yes.
Princess Bride.
Carrie Elways, I know he gets a lot of...
He's really hard... It's really hard to hide that accent of his.
Well, yes. His accent slips in and out, but I love Carrie Elways, so I thought he was fine. There's a lot of stuff in Saw that when you watch it back, it doesn't really work, but they were working on a shoestring budget, and what they created with what they had, the music by, I believe his name is Charlie Clouster, is just iconic. The ending is a legit all-time classic horror movie ending. If Saw was a standalone film, you could argue it's one of the top 5 horror movie endings ever, and I don't think it would be out of the realm of possibility. I think because there's been 9 movies now, a lot of that first movie's ending, the effect of it has been lost to history. But my freaking God, I remember being in the theater and seeing that. Okay,
so now that we got all our movies, my dad and I were thinking
hold on. I'm sorry. I'll let you talk. I want you to I want you to just recap your top 9. Just list them in order from worst to best, and then I'll do mine, and then we can move on to the next one. Okay?
9, 7, 3, 8, 4, 6, 5, 2, 1.
Okay. For me, it's Part 7, Saw 3D. Jigsaw at number 8. Number 7 is Spiral. Number 6 is Saw 3. Number 5 is Saw 4. Number 4 is Saw 5. That's confusing.
What?
Number 3 is Saw 6. Number 2 is Saw 2. And number 1 is
Saw 1.
The OG Saw. Okay. What were you going to say before now?
So I was going to say that we looked at the games and traps. For example, like in 2 and 5, they have games. But in 1, they have Amanda's reverse trap.
Yeah, so what was your favorite of the Saw games? Was it the house in Part 2?
Honestly, I really liked the one in Jigsaw, but I'm going to have to give it to Saw 2 because that one was just great. I loved stuff in it, but I did really hate Xavier and Obi.
Yeah.
Obi's death is just crazy. Needles, crazy.
Yeah,
There's a lot of needles.
The Saw 2 house. I liked Saw 6 being in the zoo and all of that William had to go through. But I'm going to give it to Saw 5. I really liked the characters in Saw 5, and I liked that they were forced to work together to get out of there. Yeah, I really liked that one.
I'm stuck.
The best individual trap. What is yours?
Mine, of course, is the reverse bear trap because 1, we see it on Amanda. 2, we almost see it on Hoffman, but close call. But we actually see it on a human in, was it Saw 3D?
Yeah, it's the very end of Saw 3. Oh, it's, yeah.
Jig Tuck dies. Jill Tuck dies. And that's when I actually get to see it on a real person, which I'm actually really excited. And I love it, other than a mannequin and half of Hoffman's face. That's great. Yeah. What's yours favorite trap?
My favorite individual trap is, and this is partly my being a history teacher, my loving things like Renaissance fairs and all of that good medieval stuff. For me, it's the death mask from the beginning of part 2. I think the guy in it is named Mike. We find he has the key inside of his eye. What I like about the Saw traps is, to me, in order for it to be a good Saw trap, it has to be winnable. Mm-hmm. It has to be something where you, as the person in it, can... You have to go through some kind of pain, but you can tolerate the pain to get through the trap. And to me, this was, okay, would I be willing to lose one eye or the vision in one eye to live? Probably. I
wouldn't. I wouldn't want to stab my eye.
I don't know. I don't know if I tested myself like that. But I'd like to think I'd be able to do it. Plus, I mean, it's a Venus flytrap on your head. And
you know what? The guy in the
I love when it finally clamps on him. I think it's freaking awesome.
Anyway, the guy with the Venus flytrap looks a lot like the guy who was covered in that flammable thing in Saw 1 and who was trying to find a secret code on the walls. He looks a lot like that person in Saw 1. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. So that's it. We've made it through in under 40 minutes. We've made it through our first franchise ranking. Charlotte's first franchise ranking. If you want to see on the Lazarcast channel another franchise ranking, Pete, Brian, and I did all of the Alien films in the Alien franchise.
Who's Brian?
Brian from Comic Books.
Oh, right.
What's their new channel? Used to be Ramblings with the Rod Pod. Comic Books Transformed. There you go. Yeah, Brian. Then Charlotte and I, if you want more in-depth reviews of the first Saw movie and then Saws 2 and 3, we have videos up on the channel for that. And we're going to be, the last cast is going to be moving on from Saw and into the Conjuring universe. Pete and Shari are going to have a review of The Conjuring, which is kind of married to the Saw franchise because of James Wan. And we're going to be catching up on the Saw movies, watching Conjuring 1 and 2, getting ready for Conjuring Part 3, which is coming out in early June. And that's it.
Yep.
We'll see you soon.
Game over.
Game over.